All right, welcome back, guys. This is the beginning of cycle 2. Isn't it crazy? Fourth recording. I guess I'll just get right into it. Welcome back to MFAers on such and such. Today we're going to be talking about the Danish Girl. But before we get into that, how's everybody doing? We are now in at least week 4. They say it's going to be the apex of the virus in the U.S. this week, so it's kind of a
Oh, really?
scary time. Yeah. So
I didn't know that.
yeah. So we'll see. I'm doing okay. I'll start off real quick. Had a campfire last night with Ryan, and we kind of talked a bit. And he's gotten me on this he's gonna try and keep me on track for this routine, right? So I woke up at 9 o'clock, worked out for a half hour, did a voice warm up actually, did a couple monologues, and did some research and stuff, and kind of getting ready for this. And after this, I'm gonna work on a scene, dive back into the some of the books that we have, and kind of take the time that I've been focusing on video games and repurposing it and doing video games as more of a reward for the day instead of the first thing I do, wake up, turn my DS on. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So that's kind of where
absolutely.
I'm at, but I feel good. I've already showered. It's good. Oh, sorry. I'm Joshua Sturt, MFA director. I don't know how long we have to keep doing that, but I'm here with my good dear friends, Brandon McPherson and Caleb John Cushing.
Hello.
I guess go around the table, introduce yourselves, and check in. Brandon, you can go
All
first.
right, I'll go then. I'm Brandon. I'm an MFA actor. I'm from Toronto. And yeah, I'm doing all right. I mean, trying to keep motivation up during this whole quarantine, but it's getting more and more difficult. I did go in a deep dive on Tiger King again in the last few days, so that's been a massive part of my life, which I'm sure will come up plenty throughout this podcast. But yeah, I'm doing all right. Some have some auditions to tape and things like that, so at least I have some work to do. So
Good.
that's nice. But yeah, just some general audition stuff, which is nice. But that's about it. What about you, Caleb?
I'm Caleb John Cushing. I'm an actor, writer, and filmmaker, and I will not rest until Joe Exotic is free.
So you full on, you believe that he's been set up, huh?
Joe Exotic is innocent, and he's our nation's greatest treasure, and he must be protected at all costs.
Speaking like a man who would have voted for him as president.
Absolutely
Wow.
would have. If Bernie doesn't get the nomination, and it looks like either way we're fucked, I'm just gonna write in Joe Exotic.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's definitely not a Democrat. So
Is this where I say that's not a vote for the Democratic Party, is a vote for Trump? Is that where I? But you don't
I
care.
mean, the Democratic Party is. I don't consider myself a Democrat. I consider myself like a liberal person, and the Democratic Party of America is very moderate center,
Yeah.
and they
I
are spineless, and they refuse to, take action. Like they've allowed the Republicans to whittle away like our democracy and our freedoms, and they refuse to fight against it. Bernie would be the candidate to fix a lot of the systemic issues in our country, and the DNC is fucking him over again. And so
No,
I don't
I
want to.
get
I
that.
don't want to
Yeah.
vote for either. I don't want to vote for Biden. I don't want to vote for Trump either. And New York is going to go blue no matter what. So I might as well write in Joe Exotic.
True. Yeah. I mean, you're not gonna. You are one little speck in the 47% who just didn't vote. So.
No, I'm usually
Oh, I feel like that's a call out. I don't know.
What did you say, Josh?
I'm gonna start doing hashtag 47% or something like that. Like all the people who are sitting here complaining and it's rough, and then what was it that year, because everybody assumed Hillary was gonna win, that 47% of, I don't know if it's our demographic or if it's the entire United States, didn't vote.
I mean, most people don't vote, which is insane. But also,
Yeah.
they fucking make it hard to vote. They
That's
close
true.
polling places. They gerrymander districts. It's ridiculous.
Oh
But we don't
yeah,
have
no,
to.
yeah. We can have a whole thing about this whole thing, but I just feel like every daily briefing and everything that you kind of see with President Trump checking in with everybody. It's just this, yesterday, him stopping the scientist, the
Dr.
expert,
Fauci or
from
Fauci or
talking
however you
because
pronounce it. Yeah.
no, he's already answered the question. It's but it's just like things like that where I'm just like, bro, people are dying, but it's okay. It's fine. Anything else, Caleb? How are you? Like, how's your dating life?
My dating life is good. Is good. You know,
Uh,
I've been writing Joe a letter every day, and
Oh, does Dylan know about this? If Dylan finds out, Caleb, you could be shot, like literally,
that's
because they
okay.
don't care. They don't care. They
Dylan
carry guns.
Dylan and I have an understanding. I provide
yeah,
him with
Dylan
meth.
doesn't.
He
Dylan
leaves me
does
alone.
not seem like an angry person. He seems very calm.
Yeah,
That's
Dylan's
true.
a sweetheart. He understands.
Yeah.
I give Joe things that Dylan can't anymore.
Like what?
My
Uh,
with my young supple body. No,
Wow.
I'm doing good. I also showered this morning, so that feels like a victory.
Isn't
Um,
it crazy? Like that's kind of the thing. Like after this, obviously I'm gonna do some more arty kind of stuff, craft stuff, but like I could literally like sit down and like be okay to just chill for the rest of the day because I worked out, I showered, recorded the podcast, like had my
yeah.
coffee. I'm pretty much good.
yeah, totally.
It's
I'm working on a short film, so I'm in pre-production right now. I'm teaching myself how to storyboard. It's really cool.
oh
So
cool.
yeah, hopefully that'll get. I mean, it's hard with like we were on like a certain path, and then like coronavirus happened, so everything's getting kind of fucked up. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm trying to stay productive and work on it slowly every day. You know.
Yeah,
I
definitely. Like
mean,
I even yeah, go ahead, Brandon.
that's kind of how I've been trying to think about stuff. Is like they have an opportunity here to bank work or to bank at
Yeah.
least having things for when you get out. Like I'm trying to have things ready. Edit things that like when we are out of this, we have a lot of things banked to do.
Yeah, definitely. And
Yeah.
part of the conversation I was having with Ryan last night was that it's almost like a needed break for me in the sense that the last 3 weeks I've kind of indulged in my nostalgic video game play and TV series and just kind of like I've read plays, I've done Zoom things, like I did a reading with, Juanita in the group.
Nice.
Unfortunately my internet like cut out 3 times, so I had to quit it. But that was fun for a little bit and like I enjoy that stuff, but I also know that like when I was in the city, working my 3 days at the bar, going to the studio a couple days a week, and just having my schedule every week, the weeks went by so fast, and before you know it,
Yeah.
it's been like 2 months, and you're like, what have I really done to get me another notch up in this industry or this whatever for my artistic self? Like, have I actually put the work in? And the short answer is no, because I go and observe actors at the studio. I go to work, observe people. Like I don't even work out though. Like my Mondays were my days off, and like I kind of gave myself that excuse. Like I wasn't reading plays. I wasn't,
Hmm.
doing any of that stuff I needed to. And now that I'm kind of, last night and then today, I'm just like, no, put the work in. Like you have all of this time. You've taken your break. You don't know how long it's going to happen. You owe it to yourself to like dive in for like 4 hours a day and just do something towards it. Once that 4 hours is up, then you can do whatever you want. But it's
Yeah.
refocusing that obsession that I have with like tasks. Like for instance, like quick tangent, I started a new game in Pokemon Ultra Sun or whatever, but before that I wanted to like lay a bunch of eggs and put them into the bank or whatever. If you guys know that whole system. And I literally spent 5 hours doing that because it wasn't anything that I had to think about. It was like from like 11 p.m. to like 3 a.m. I was
Jesus
watching,
Christ.
Adult Swim, like Toonami and stuff like that, and like, it was funny. The anime was going on. I forget which ones were on, but like Ryan comes out. I'm like, I'm probably doing the most Japanese thing I could ever do, playing Pokemon and watching anime. Like I don't, but it's like Ryan tells me he's like, you get obsessed with these tasks, and it's not the fact that like video games. It was like I had a goal in mind, and I was gonna go to bed. Once I was done, I was gonna go to bed. Like and that's the kind of person I am. So it's like trying to like how do I refocus that into actual things to help me be better as an actor, an artist, a creator, and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So that's like my journey now. Sorry, that was like a huge thing. I just wanted to say that out there. It's been on my mind for the last 12
No, dude,
hours.
that's totally fair. It's. I mean, that idea of making the things that you're obsessed about the things that are going to help you. You know, which is like
Yeah.
something that I struggled with for a long time. When we were talking about this last time, I'd finally gotten myself in a position where I felt that way all the time, and then now it's like, okay, well, you can't do shit. So it's like, I definitely understand what you're saying.
Yeah, totally. I totally get it. I
But
feel
like even
like
that. Sorry, go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
It's even I'm like trying to write random stuff, poetry, novels, scripts and all of that. But it's just trying to do anything and like get onto that same mindset of it being a task and like having to get
Yeah,
it done. Have something completed seems really important.
yeah.
Or feeling
Another
like you're accomplished, something for the day.
Hmm.
yeah. Just try to use as much time productively as you can. But also, it has been nice. I agree. Like the first week, I just didn't like. I was just like on vacation, but because it does feel nice to be able to take a break. But then like yeah, you have to make sure that you don't stay stagnant for too long, or at least I have a problem with that. I can like whenever we were on breaks from school, I would just kind of really like not do anything, and
Right.
because there's no end sight to this, it's a little more important, I think, to stay productive and be creative and flex those muscles. Because I also don't want to go insane, just like
Yeah.
sitting in my room alone.
Yeah. Well, Friday
Well,
night was the first night where like Ryan and I were sitting in the living room watching whatever was on TV. And I'm going to the channels and I'm like, I'm not inspired to do anything, to watch anything, to like I'm on my computer playing a game. I'm like, this is boring. Like it finally hit me just how bored and how exhausted the things were. You know what I mean? Like used up all my like eagerness to just sit in bed,
Yeah, well, that's good
I just
though.
can't sit anymore. I know it's good, it's very good.
well,
But
yeah. No, it seems like it's just craziness. It's all insane. It's a
yeah,
new
but
world.
even if you wanted to like do something, right? Like, Caleb, let us know if you want to like just if there's anything that you're workshopping, if you just want to do like a Zoom thing and like read, just to kind of like hear it. Because like
Yeah.
here's the thing about like making stuff too is, watching all these movies and TV shows, I'm sitting here going, I would love to just like I wish we had like a big house that we all had to be quarantined in that we can just like shoot the shit, fuck around and like make something on an iPhone 11, We're like do a
Yeah,
simple
totally.
because I've been watching these shows that are very two camera oriented or like very easy, like long shots, and it's like, how easy would it be to have somebody with like a steady hand or something, or like a tripod essentially, and just film stuff and just fuck around with it, right? Like, but
Yeah.
we can't because we're all separated in our own fucking houses
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
buildings,
It's 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 uh it's frustrating. It's very frustrating because
Yeah,
that's
Anyway,
exactly it. Like if I had the money, I'd be like, let's all just rent a house in the middle of nowhere and do exactly that and film for fucking 12 weeks, Except the fact that
yeah.
absolutely.
we're in different countries and that we're legally not allowed to do that. That's the only reason.
Yeah, it'd actually be
oh,
illegal
oh,
at that point.
illegal and the fact that I'm broke as shit. So two reasons.
Okay, so two small things
Mm,
that we
Yeah,
can
you just
we
got to
can just
figure
work
out how to
around.
get
Yeah.
past those things, and then it's all good.
Well, I don't know. This might be
Um,
yes.
sorry, go
Sorry.
ahead.
No, it's bullshit. You
Uh,
can go. It sounded like you actually had
well,
something
which
to say.
it's like but what Josh was saying about like having very little motivation when watching stuff. It's been so hard to pick what to watch. Like Tiger King was a great distraction, and then I started watching season 5 of Peaky Blinders, which got me way too excited for acting and all of that. So I was just like, oh fuck. Like I just want to be out auditioning and working after watching that. So it was a big bummer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel you. I've been like watching a lot. Like I just got the Criterion channel, so I'm watching a lot of like classics, trying to like look at it, like doing research and stuff, and
Yeah.
trying to like inspire my own stuff. But yeah, I agree. When I watch like more contemporary things, I get a lot of like, fuck. I just want to be working.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I
But
did.
Yeah.
It's funny. I did watch Miss Americana this weekend,
right,
the Taylor Swift documentary.
sure.
It was nice. It was interesting. I
How do you
feel for
feel
her, man.
about how do you feel about the because I know it was in the news like last week. She like finally released like evidence of her side of like the Kanye call. Because remember how Kanye West like kind of like put her on blast,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I guess now she
Well,
finally. I don't even understand really. They're
what is
both
it? Because
Well,
I
so
know
yeah,
the originally like Kim released the video of Kanye talking to Taylor on speakerphone about asking permission to essentially have her in his new song or whatever.
basically there's a bar that he has in one of or he had at the time was his new album. It's like a couple albums ago by now. But in the song Famous, he goes like, I feel like me and Taylor might still have sex. I made that bitch famous, referring to the
Yeah,
MTV Movie Awards thing, where he like
right.
took the award from her and was like, Beyonce is the best music video of all time. And then so Taylor, I think like Taylor tweeted out something or was like, I don't feel like, comfortable being referred to as a bitch, like in like the most like popular hip hop album of the year or something like that. And then Kim released a video that was apparently Kanye on the phone with Taylor, and kind of the video seemed to imply that she was like giving her consent and like was like, yeah, this is like a cool line, it's a cool song, I don't care. And then but then it was like years later where like last week Taylor finally kind of like released her side of it, being like, actually that's not what happened. And I just don't understand why it took literally years for this to happen.
What was it? What was it? I don't know.
I don't
Was
know,
it
I
just
haven't
her?
it's
Oh, you
hard
just say it
to
was. You say she let it. Oh, okay. You hadn't actually listened to it.
I don't really care about Taylor Swift, but I just
Wow.
realized it was in the news. I thought maybe you, since you're a fan, you had a take
Okay,
on it. That's
that's a
all.
really strong term for someone who saw something that was not a limited series documentary and was curious about her like the time before she came out with Lover, the album Lover.
Okay, I thought you were a fan. That's all. I didn't mean to insult you.
No, I mean I know her popular songs, but like I only have two albums, 1989 and now Lover, because I wanted to actually try and listen to it all the way through. But I wouldn't call myself like a fan. Like her, I mean it's one of those things where you hear a lot of music that you listen like that was popular like when you were like in high school, and like I remember some of her earlier stuff that was really popular that was kind of on the radio and stuff, and you kind of hand to her, she still sounds the same. Not she doesn't sound the same. She like her style and her tone is the same in terms of her music and stuff and lyrics. But no, anyway. I
I
just
mean,
wanted to say something
I
I
had
watched, but
I admire the hustle. I mean, she was a country singer and then realized that's not how you make money, and then she became a pop star, and now she's one of the most popular
well,
pop
and
stars in the
then
world.
Yeah, just I'm like definitely up there, for sure up there, and I'm a fan.
You like her
she's not,
music?
I mean she's a good-looking woman. She
I like everything that's going on there.
I can't say that I've ever heard a Taylor Swift song that I was like, this is good.
I
But
feel like every girlfriend I've ever had has like been obsessed with Taylor Swift.
it's
Well, that's
fine.
her demographic. It's
Yeah,
fine.
that's her demographic.
Yeah, no, and then therefore like I've heard all of her songs and I enjoy them. I'm a fan.
Yeah.
I sorry,
Ryan,
That is the point that I'm
no,
making.
no.
I see.
With
I
Ryan,
see.
I got in a little discussion though, because like if you look at what her parents have done, like what their careers were before Taylor Swift became Taylor Swift, it was like her dad's like a lawyer, worked for a law firm. Her mom was like a hedge fund or whatever. Like it was like a they were wealthy before, and Ryan's just like, I hate how they like try and paint this, picture of her like, coming up from nothing and things like that. I'm like, and it's funny because it depends on what lens you watch documentaries through. Because I saw the trailer before I watched it, and I knew kind of what they were angling at. About it wasn't about like her start, it was more about the year between Redemption, whatever the last album was, and her year where she literally like when they just completely just hated her and like the industry just completely drug her through the mud and she just disappeared for a year. That's really kind of what it was about. And when she became more political or whatever, outspoken about that. And so we got in this fight of where like you notice celebrities or notice people who are famous, the majority of them, or more than, they're not the minority obviously, but have had parents that have had the resources to be able to support and give their kids those connections to. I'm not saying she's not talented. I'm saying because she still had to work for it and she still had to show people that she could sing and be a singer and an entertainer and a pop star. But it did help that her parents at age 6 could give her a good guitar, give her the lessons, put her in with the vocal coaches, and have the money to spend on her career. You
Yeah,
know?
of course. I mean, like that's most artists. I mean, like I don't know, particularly in the music industry, I think you're really hard pressed to find people who genuinely have come from like nothing, you know,
Yeah. That
like
makes me think that we have to like work even harder. Even like the three of us, it's like we don't. I don't have like a parent who is in the industry who can put me in the room with that producer that can give me that one small role that'll lead to another. You know what I mean? I don't.
Yeah.
I don't have
why do you
that.
think? Yeah, why do you think I get so fucking mad when like Lucas Hedges and Timothy Chalamet are in every fucking movie? You know, like because there it is different. You know, when you come from relative privilege and you have like, you don't have to worry about like fucking like succeeding because you can just you have these connections from when you were fucking 5, and it's not their fault.
Yeah.
It's not their fault. Their parents are
No,
who
not
they
at all.
are. So I try. I'm mostly kidding, but it does get frustrating. You're right. We have to work that much harder.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm a little hard pressed to jump in on this conversation because I'm very, very lucky. I wouldn't have been able to go to the actor studio without a lot of help, and I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I don't have any connections that help me in the film world, but I certainly, would say that I'm on the side of having more help than others, and it's not the easiest thing in the world. But again, don't have any connections in the film industry that help me, so.
But
I
you
mean, yeah,
still,
there's a
but you
difference
still have to do the
between
work, though.
like
It's like,
yeah, like you
Pardon?
didn't have like
Pardon?
an uncle who was a casting director and like make you
No,
was like, hey Steven,
no,
meet my
I
fucking
do
nephew,
not.
can you put him in your movie? Like it's different. Like like there's a difference between like
But I was able to go to school and be able to
yeah,
focus on that, and in a country where I wasn't allowed to work, right? So like, I was in a very fortunate position. But now it's
yeah,
on me,
totally.
it's all
which is
relative though, is what I'm saying. No, I don't think either
yeah.
of us are trying to make you feel bad.
No,
No,
that's
no,
not.
that's
I'm
not
just trying to
that's
like.
not what I'm saying. I'm just trying to offer a separate perspective. That's
Oh
all.
sure, yeah, no, sure. No,
Yeah.
I totally hear you.
But
Um,
obviously, like the having a casting director, family member would certainly be helpful. I'm sure.
yeah, well, that's the other thing too. Is I know that like if I was in that position, I wouldn't be like I wouldn't be complaining at all.
No, no. I
Yeah,
mean, look, it's every industry. You take what you can get, right? The whole thing's a fight.
absolutely.
Yeah, it's yeah.
Well, guys, that was a great start.
Thanks, Josh.
Yeah, some really interesting. I feel like one of these episodes we're just gonna literally spend an hour just going off on some topic and have to
Yeah, we
like
should.
redo the episode. But I
No, I
want
think that's the most
to
interesting stuff.
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah,
There's
no,
no
this is
time frame. This can be as long as we want.
so true. But to the task at hand, the Danish Girl switching. Transitions are hard.
Speaking of,
Jesus. Wow. Wow.
Oh
All
shit! I didn't
right.
even like realize. Aha! I'm punny. I'm so punny.
do we
Um,
not want to quickly talk about Rebooted?
Oh yeah. Sorry. Yeah, rebooted. Speaking of like making short films and trying to create on our own and stuff like that with our friends,
yeah.
I thought it was charming, also a little heartbreaking, and like I totally and like the ending totally was that nice little like I don't know how you would call it if there's like a technical term for it, but like I don't know, I like the ending in terms of him, the monster getting his like scream. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, basically, I just to set it up. Like I
Oh
think
yeah, sorry.
last week at this point. So there's this young guy in Australia named Michael Shanks, who is a part of this group called Late Night Films, and I've been a fan of his work since like 2008. There used to be this website called The Escapist magazine, and he had a web series on there, and then kind of got very he did a couple of like YouTube videos, got very like relatively like internet famous. But now he just makes short films, and he released one called Rebooted, which is the story of like what's it called? Jason and the Argonauts. There's like that famous like stop motion
Yeah.
film from like like in the 70s, 80s. I don't even remember when it came out. But
No,
he's
it's
so
way
like
before that.
yeah, way before that. Yeah, you're right. Like really, really early stuff. Ray Harryhausen, animation
Hmm.
style, and the skeleton who like fights Jason, his like a stop motion creature, and like the short movie is about him like trying to like make it kind of like as an actor as like a monster in like the current like entertainment industry, and just how it's like very frustrating, and how he's like, you know, like outdated technology and he can't catch a break. And I agree, Josh, it is very charming and cute, and just like technically like flawless and well done and really creative.
Yeah, from like
very.
I love just the fact that like he gets every single side that he gets, just the roar. You know, that's a,
and he keeps
tries
going
sitting
up
down
against like
next
the
to
same monster.
No, I thought it was like, and it was so easy, like having the T-Rex on the animatronic track or whatever, the wheels and stuff, and like having like this like the aqua monster kind of skin, like the suit to be its
Yeah,
own creature.
it's the
Like
different like animation styles. There was like the 2D, there was like the 3D like rendered, the like the suit, the rubber suit, the animatronics. It was really cool. It was like an Avengers style team up.
Yeah, even that whole bar that they're all at is fantastic.
Yeah.
Just having them all there chilling. I was like, I love that idea.
It was just a really good idea and really creative, and I encourage everyone to check it out. And it's like a little like, you know, yeah, just make stuff. It's really inspiring to me, you know, just like if you have an idea, just like make it work. And obviously
Exactly.
he's had like experience and he's very good. Like the effects are like very layered and very complicated and they look great, you know, so it's not easy, but it's like, you know, he just made it. He had an idea and he did it, and it's awesome.
Yeah,
I think that's great.
it's so well done. I love when he goes into like the shooting of the reboot, and it's the guy in like the green screen costume and all that.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
It's just so
God.
well
And he
done.
gets so mad.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. I definitely feel like sometimes I'll go to these auditions and you see the same people in the rooms.
Yep.
And it's you know, really accurate, you know, portrayal of how frustrating that can be. But yeah, at the end he finally gets his scare.
Yeah, and he like has a little smirk on his face, like looking out the window of the subway, and I just find it so. Yeah. What is that term called when you get something at the end that you the payoff was good, right?
Yeah, the payoff, the dichotomy.
The dichotomy.
No, just kidding.
Speaking of dichotomy,
oh boy.
Cool. Let's get in. So last episode I requested the Danish Girl, Eddie Redmayne, and oh my god, I had her. What's the lead
Alicia
actress?
Vikander.
Vikander, yeah. And it's about Lily, who is a painter artist with her wife Greta. But it's a story essentially the transitioning from going from Einar to Lily, and it's set in the 1920s, based off a book called The Danish Girl from the early 2000s, which is loosely based on the autobiography of Lily called I think Man into Woman or something. Let me see.
It's her memoirs, right?
Yeah. God, I had it right here. Anyway, I'll find it if one of you guys are talking. But the reason I brought it up because when we talk about the craft and we talked about characterization, and especially with us going to the actor studio drama school, I thought it would be a very interesting conversation about masculine versus feminine, whether having like a cis male play a transgendered woman, you know, and like there's a lot of these little different topics that I feel like we could really touch base on, but also, you know, even like the way it's shot and how everything, you know, it's very stylistic and things like that. So I guess starting out, we can just do general.
Yeah,
I've seen it before. This was the first movie that I have seen that's been requested. So I want to hear from you guys first. What you guys thought?
Yeah, as somebody who like hadn't seen it before, had a pretty solid idea of it. Obviously, there was, you know, she won an Academy Award for it. Did he win as well?
He was
Did Eddie
nominated.
Redmayne win? He was nominated. Okay,
that was the year that 2015 was the year that. Oh fuck! I remember because Brie Larson won for Room and Mark Rylance won for The Bridge of Spies for supporting. Who won for Best Actor? I don't remember, but he didn't win.
Don't remember. Was it Leo? Was that Leo's year?
For The Revenant? Oh, it might have been.
Yeah.
I think that was the year Leo won.
They were saying Eddie might have had potential to do 2 back-to-back Best Actor.
Yeah.
Because he won the year before with The Theory of Everything.
Yes. He, I mean, like they were fantastic. I loved that there was such a focus on their relationship. I thought it was a beautiful movie. Everybody in it was incredible. It was shot beautifully. I was just sad at the end. That's all. I was just like, oh man,
Yeah.
this is very sad. Like very, very incredibly well done movie. I was just like, now I want to go watch more Tiger King because I'm sad. So
That's awesome.
that's my like beginning thoughts on it.
Caleb?
If it was in Denmark, then why did they all have British accents?
I
Well,
also had that
yeah,
thought. I'm
sure.
glad that you brought this up.
Everybody's British in the movies.
No, so obviously, like that's just a funny, like, because they did the same thing in Chernobyl, where they were all supposed to be like
Yeah.
Russians, but first speak. Like, it doesn't matter. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't really bother me. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't like it at all.
Oh, okay.
Or up.
Thought it was not good and not well done. And we can get into everything. I don't want to like. I want to hear what you guys have to say for sure. But I really didn't think that it was very like respectfully done at all. And I'm interested to see what you
Interesting.
guys where you guys kind of came from it. I went into it. I had never seen it before either. This was my first time checking it out. I definitely have had this like un unreasonable, like I don't think I dislike Eddie Redmayne. I wouldn't say that, but I've never been impressed by him, like to the degree of which like everybody kind of like said they were like blown away by his like Stephen Hawking and by this movie, and I thought they were like fine, but I've never been like floored by a performance from him. And in a movie
Have
that
you
like
seen Have you seen him in the Harry Potter movies?
I saw I saw the first Fantastic Beasts. I didn't see the second one. I thought it was okay, but he said he has the same face. Like he's got these like weird, glassy eyes, and his mouth is big, and it's in the same position in every shot. It was wild. I don't know. I'm not the biggest. I don't think he's that good, but like it's fine. Whatever. If you guys disagree, I was surprised that like Alicia Vikander won. I was like, really? Like I didn't think she was bad either. But up against like the women in that category from that year, like Kate Winslet, like especially, I was surprised. I think she did a good job, but I wasn't like blown away either.
I think what it's funny because like you can always nitpick or you can always like there's a whole thing I was reading that Eddie Redmayne can't physically grow a beard, so he's always gonna have that his young boyish face, like he literally can't grow a beard. So but it helped. The reasoning why I chose it wasn't. I think there's more of the craft aspect of it, and maybe the pseudo politicalness of it. I thought would be interesting to discuss because what I took from it. First off, the shots beautiful. Everything looked like the interior of the apartment looked like a painting. Like because they're both artists, they're both painters. One's landscape.
Yeah.
One's Greta's more of like a human figure model kind of painter, but like everything just looked like a painting, and like the shots of like the architecture and the long shots and the way they framed. There was always this repetition in it, right? You can like stylistically, it was very pleasing to me.
Yeah, I mean, like
artful film.
The production design is definitely the best part. I agree with you that it looks gorgeous, and I enjoyed the aesthetics of the world it created. And I also loved the score from Alexander Desplat. I thought the music was great. But to me, I felt that it was very much like the Hollywood sanitized version of a story like this. Like it seemed to me like it was like created as like a vehicle to like win awards and to like make like people in Hollywood feel good about themselves for supporting a movie about trans people. And I felt that the actual subject matter was kind of like handled a little strangely. And they also like, I don't know, I was researching like some of the trivia about this movie, and I found like they kind of like took out a lot of like the complexity of the characters and the stories and made it more mainstream. Yeah. I just don't I don't like that at all. If you're going to tell the story, tell the story. Don't like make it like neat and polished for like fucking for what. But that's just me. I don't know. But I want to hear what you
it's
guys took away from it for sure.
everything. Caleb, just so you know, I do agree with all of that. But Josh's skill to just see the good in everything allows me to frame it in a different way. Of Brandon, you go real quick. I'm gonna get my thoughts together.
Yeah, no, I can see a lot of that. I mean, I think the biggest thing is whether Eddie Redmayne should have done the movie in the first place, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a big argument there where even I think there's articles with him now where he talks about, whether he would even do it now. Obviously it was 5 years ago, so it was a different landscape, but I don't necessarily know that that's cool.
I mean, people definitely had a problem with it at the time too, and I think hadn't like, it's definitely not the same as it would have been if it was announced today for sure. But I think it was like kind of this, maybe sort of the start. I think where it started was when Jared Leto won for Dallas Buyers Club, and everybody was like, "Oh, come on, really?" And then like this movie came out, and then it's like, "Come on!" And then like it just kind of kept snowballing from there. Because I know that like when Jared Leto winning, I think started the conversation on like I'm sure that the trans community had already been pissed off for a while, but I don't know. You think about like in the late 90s when Hilary Swank won for Boys Don't Cry, that was seen as very brave. But and then only 20 years later, like 15 years later, it's just like come such a long way. And I do think that that's a huge detriment that like no trans people were involved at all. It was directed by Tom Hooper. It was written by a woman, a straight woman.
One of the nurses was transgendered. I was reading a Variety article before the movie came out about. Actually, I'll get the quote right here. It said, something about Danish Girl. It's talking about Hollywood and portrayal of the LGBT community and stuff like that. And then the actress, one of the actresses in the ensemble, the nurses, said she thinks this will probably be one of the last high-profile transgender roles going to a cisgender actor. Which, for those of you who don't know what cisgender means, it's to identify with the gender that you were born with. I'm a cis. We're all cis males here.
Mm-hmm.
Do you just assume my gender?
Wow. Okay. I knew that was coming.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of set up the T-ball for me, but
it says she predicts trans actress Rebecca Root, who portrays one of Lily's nurses in the film, as more of us come up through the ranks, the more likely it will be we'll take these roles. Now,
I mean, but I was talking about like from like a producer's writer, director, like the head creatives, like
sure, yes, no, but that goes into the whole topic of the woman who wrote the novel American Dirt about the experience of immigrants coming to the country, and she got dragged through the mud because she wasn't a Mexican immigrant trying to escape coming to the United States and dealing with the border bullshit that's going on. You know what I mean? Like we have this like society now that unless you have that exact experience, unless you're the exact type, you don't know. You can't have this role. You can't empathize. You can't sympathize. You can't. How dare you write a book? That's about an experience.
Yeah, but also, I think like you have to if you're gonna choose to tell a story that isn't your experience, like you have to be able to like be willing to like do the research to make it authentic.
Yeah,
I didn't find this story to be authentic. It didn't feel real to me. Nothing felt truthful. I was also always conscious. Oh, sorry, Brandon.
No, I agree with you. Even just reading stuff on like Wikipedia about the historical accuracy, like Gerda wasn't with her when she was having her last operation and death. Like she was with her second husband. So like even that whole like their love story is kind of bullshit.
Well, there's
love story's
bullshit,
and also they totally whitewashed her too, like because she was like a lesbian or like bisexual, and like they totally made her. Yeah,
and she had lesbian erotica paintings, which was like a whole thing apparently.
She was a huge artist, and they totally gloss over it. I mean, that's what I'm saying is they sanitized this story. Like, I don't see how there's anything respectful about that. I'm not saying, Josh, that like that it couldn't have been good. Like, of course not. And like, just because you're not like somebody with certain experiences doesn't mean you can't tell a certain story, but you have to like be willing to like do a good job, do your research.
Which is interesting because um, I think the script or developed they developed over like what 15 years. I think I read
Yeah.
and so it's how I mean Caleb, like a screenwriter, I don't know, but it's like for 15 years you work on the script, you work on the story, you have the memoirs, you have the book, The Danish Girl from from the guy Eddie, what's his face, from the early 2000s, based on this whole story, and then to come up with that, it's like I guess you have to weigh the thing of like trying to get it greenlit versus like I guess Caleb, you're on the point of view where you'd rather it be a smaller production indie film than a studio
Well,
produced
listen,
like
listen,
whitewashed.
I can't I can't like fault business people for making smart business decisions. Like they sanitized the story for a mainstream audience to sell tickets, and that's what happened. But that doesn't
And
mean
then
that I
they
have
won the
to.
Academy Awards.
That doesn't mean I have to respect it as a piece of art. Like great business moves, but I didn't really enjoy it. And maybe I'm being harsh, but I don't know. I was bothered. I was like uncomfortable while I was watching. Like it felt, first of all, the story felt very rushed in the beginning. Like it didn't. None of the discoveries felt organic. I didn't think that like. I just didn't believe it. I didn't believe it at all. And I'm not. I am conscious that I'm going into this with like an Eddie Redmayne bias. I was upset that he won over Michael Keaton the year previously. So I was like, fuck this guy. But like even meeting the movie on its own terms, it's like I have trans people in my life. Like I don't want to speak for any trans people. That's not my place. But nobody that I have been friends with or am friends with or have spoken to about their experience has described it like in this movie it's like it is like they are portraying Lily Einar as crazy. They're the behavior of the character seems more to me of like schizophrenia and like personality disorder. Like nobody like they have created another personality in Lily rather than like I identify as like the person I am just in the wrong gender. It's like no, I have like become a different person. And I think that is like a fault in the writing, that is a failure to like understand the nuance of like what it is to live as a trans person.
I think you also have to you have to take into account the time period too, though. Like I'm sure, whereas this is based in the 1920s, where if you go to a doctor because you're not quite sure what's happening to you, or like what these thoughts that you're having, you're still trying to discover it. Where like that's the only thing they could tell you is that you're crazy, that you're schizophrenic,
no, Josh,
and so you start believing that. That's what I think. Like your friends,
listen. I'm not like faulting the in-universe like reaction of the hospital staff. Like that makes sense to me. What I'm saying is like the narrative, like the way that Eddie Redmayne, so like Einar Lily is like behaving, where like it like it's behaving more like Norman Bates, like dressing up like his mother. Like there were moments where I was like, this feels like a fucking horror movie. Like it was bizarre. I like the layer of narrative, like the layer of fiction I felt was not like there was like a misunderstanding of like what like there's like I don't feel like myself, but like I've never met somebody who had to like create an alternate identity, like an alternate personality, like the language being used that was like no, like Lily's here, or like I like Einar's left, I'm here. Like it was just so like poorly handled that I couldn't believe it at all.
Where like when she asked for her husband back for the night or whatever, he's like, I can't help you. That's very multiple personalities esque. I would say, I mean, Eddie did his. Go ahead, Brandon. I'm sorry.
As opposed to it being, a part of them, or like him or her, like as opposed to that being one person.
Exactly.
The fact that they actively the dialogue and the way it was talked about was that it was a split personality. It did seem very odd.
Yeah, I can.
Just didn't sit right with me at all.
That.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
I mean, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, as a result of that, I found it hard to believe, like, like the movie wanted me to feel bad about what was happening, and I obviously did feel bad, but like, you know, the way that the character was behaving, I didn't think it was outlandish that the doctors would have assumed like that they were kind of losing their mind a little bit, because
Sure.
they were literally like the character from like from like a dramatic standpoint was written in a way that they were like behaving crazy. And I don't want to like be misconstrued as like being transphobic, or, you know, I'm not at all. I just don't think the material was handled well. And
No, I mean, there's a quote here from a transgender writer that says, it's like someone got inspired by a Shakespeare tragedy that combined it with the verbosity of R.L. Stine with the subtlety of Brendan Fraser.
Wow.
Yeah.
I want that tattooed on my fucking body. That's amazing. But no, that's actually like, it is just unsubtle. And also like their fucking relationship was, and I think it's because they fucking totally butchered the Gerda character, you know, like we were saying, they whitewashed that character. But their relationship didn't feel like, you know, I didn't believe their relationship either. And I don't think that's the fault of the actors. I think like the actors had chemistry, but it was just so fucking unbelievable.
Well, you hear a lot of the time that, like, with this movie, the criticism about this movie, none of the criticisms were from the actual the acting side of it. It sounded like it was more of just like the story, like you said, and like how they were the adaptation of it versus like, you know, the actors can only do what they're given, right, from the director, from the script, and stuff like that. You know.
I did want to jump in on that because I was like, I do like Eddie Redmayne and I like Alicia Vikander, and I did think they were both fantastic. Like I did, regardless of everything else, I thought they were both doing great work.
I like Alicia Vikander generally. I didn't think she did a bad job in this. I've seen her do better work.
I wanted to bring up then, you know, because we go into this rabbit hole, but like, how about, because we all went to the same movement class for 3 years, and there was I missed the masculine and feminine project, but you guys went through it. I felt observing this movie was like a 2-hour long exploration of how women move, and or be a man, being a cis male, and like discovering his femininity. What do you guys think about that in terms of that?
I feel like that's what the movie was going for, but I didn't see Eddie Redmayne discover anything. Like I didn't see that character discover anything.
Oh, he was already the character?
I think that like, I mean, they talk about it, how like Einar, since he was little, always felt different and was just kind of like hiding and repressing. And so I guess that makes sense. But like everything, you know, like in the first 12 minutes of the movie, you know, they're kind of like, I don't know. It didn't feel that way to me. I didn't see it happening. But yeah, Brandon, you go ahead. It sounds like you disagree.
I disagree a little bit. I definitely thought they could have done a lot more with it. And I think that the character, or like Eddie Redmayne doing the character, started at a place of that femininity already being heightened. There were some moments that I did clock in some of the montages where he's trying on the clothes and stuff, where I thought he did some really good subtle work, some subtle realizations in close-ups with his face. So there was some things with that I clocked that made me feel that there were some discoveries, but definitely not in the story at all. Yeah. That was just extra stuff that he was layering on, you know?
I think the reason he was cast because Eddie Redmayne as an actor, I think, has some level of ambiguity to him. Mm-hmm. Like he has a very angular face, very feminine face, and like, you know, long like fingers, and you know, he lost a little bit of weight. I think said 15 pounds, whatever. But
yeah,
you know, but he does have these features to him that already imply something a little more effeminate. But I like this, the whole, like a role like this, I would enjoy living, because it's like, because we don't, as a society, like we're men, right? We don't ever fully, whatever degree you go toward, like to dive into it. You know, there is none of this. We don't go to the nudie booths or whatever and just watch the woman move in a way that's more of like, I'm going to try and imitate you versus, you know, I'm just here for my pleasure, right? Like,
yeah, I did like that scene a lot.
That scene was very interesting for me because he was specifically there not like he wasn't there for his sexual pleasure, but he was there just because he needed that more exposure of the raw female form, and I thought there were some instances in the movie of that, you know.
Mm.
whether level of success or not. That being said, I want to talk about, because it's been brought up before a little bit, about types and actors playing different people and things like that. And I think this is a good movie to kind of discuss however long we go or how heated and passionate it gets. But about a white, cisgender male playing a transgendered character. I have my thoughts on it, and I don't want to speak yet. I want to hear from you guys and what you think. And this is obviously to people listening.
Yeah.
This is a very open, very. It's not. We're thinking of more of like a from a critical standpoint, not necessarily like a judgment standpoint. Or
Yeah,
I guess I don't know, Caleb. How should I phrase this for the disclaimer?
it's just a conversation.
It's a conversation among friends.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys know what I
Perfect.
am going to say already because I'm a fucking angry leftist liberal. But
I don't know what you're gonna say, but I also have pretty strong thoughts on it.
okay, sorry. I think it's voyeuristic. I think that it's ignorant, and you can take into account like time and everything. Like we were talking about in last episode, with like Prince like beating women.
Yeah.
It's not acceptable, and I'm not defending it at all, but I understand in the 80s why it was like not, why it was in the movie, why like, when like I get it. I understand why, like, how today it would be viewed very differently than it was back then, probably. And even back then, it was pushing it a little bit, like we talked about. But with
I still don't get it.
with something like this, it just because of the type of movie it was that was so clearly made for Oscar bait, it was made to win awards. It was made to kind of be a palatable version of this story for like Hollywood type people to like digest, and didn't really do anything to like respectfully discuss the situation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like trans women and men, but mostly trans women get like murdered every day at like a very high rate.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, the violence and suicide rates up. Like it's hard.
so to like have it be like what a challenge to like play dress up in this like very like safe environment, and I get to like use it to like exercise my craft, and then I can move away from it and not think about it ever again. This thing that like destroys lives. I don't know. It leaves a very bad taste in my mouth. And I'm not saying that, Eddie Redmayne or anyone else had ill intention. I'm not saying that at all. I don't think he's a bad person.
No.
But I personally, I would never do this, and I don't agree. I don't think it should be on the table, as like something that actors should be able to do. That's my thought.
Yeah, I agree with you. And like exploration for your art is one thing. You can do that at any time. You don't need a multi-billion-dollar budget to go explore.
That's actually a really good point. That's a really good point.
You know what I mean? Like Caleb, me and you in class did gender projects. You know what I mean? We got the opportunity to explore all this. You didn't need to get paid whatever $5 million to do it. And on top of that, like there's a responsibility as an actor, especially now. Again, 5 years ago was very different. Or like the awareness, I guess, is much more here now. But there's a responsibility to now not take that role, because it should go to somebody who's transgender, who's working their ass off to get a role like that.
Yeah, so there's a show on Netflix. This is going off what you said, Brandon, because I agree with you. There's a show on Netflix called Sense8. It's a really, really good show. I would recommend you people watch it. Everybody listening, but also you too. It was made by the Wachowskis. Who are actually like male to female trans people. They used to be the Wachowski brothers. They made The Matrix, they made Speed Racer, they made Cloud Atlas, and they both transitioned and are now women. And they made this show called Sense8, which is exploring all levels of people from all around the world, sexuality and gender. And there's a character called Nomi, who is male to female trans, who has had the surgery, and her exploration and their discussion of what it is to be trans. Again, I don't want to speak for anybody, but to me, it seemed like it was coming from a much more authentic place, and it felt real and it felt respectful because it was made by trans people. And the Danish Girl, just like doesn't. It just feels so false to me, and it feels so gross. I just couldn't believe what I was watching. And I agree, Brandon. There's a difference between like exploring in your own personal life and space and doing what you feel like you need to do as an artist to like accepting a multi-million-dollar paycheck and like using a blockbuster awards vehicle to do that. I agree with you.
Yeah, and look, the other side of that is like the current state of like my career. If somebody offered me a role like that, it would also be very hard to say no. But at the same time, I'd probably come back and be like, okay, I shouldn't be that person. Is there any other role in this movie that I can play? Can I play the other guy? You know what I mean? Like it's just a tough thing. It's like
it's hard because a lot of transgender actors that you see portray like Orange is the New Black and Sense8, I guess, and things like that. They've already transitioned, right? So they're already they've always male to female, right? They're a woman stuck in a man's body. They have the surgery. They're now full-fledged woman. Casting a transgendered actor, you'd have to cast somebody early transition, like early who's still discovering that, because what you get is like once you have the surgery and once you have if you have chest implants or whatever, or you start taking the pill, like the estrogen, the hormones and stuff, you can't be let's for sake of argument, the character that Eddie Redmayne played, Lily, you can't accurately portray the male trying to.
So then why can Eddie Redmayne accurately portray the female? That doesn't make any sense.
Because he's a no guys, because he's a male.
Okay,
right?
But the character,
if he was a transgender actor, they've already transitioned for the most part.
Okay, so then they're a female. So it's just the opposite way of a female playing a man. I don't understand how that's different.
Because whether or not depending on how far they've transitioned, why would a male to female transgendered actress, why would they want to go back and becoming a boy for the sake of like a story? Why don't what I'm trying to get at, and what I think is that I think nowadays, like when scripts are being written, roles are being written, like just have more characters who just happen to be transgendered and tell different stories. I think it's hard.
I mean, well, I agree with that statement, but I really disagree with what you're saying, Josh, because I don't think that like I don't see how it's different from like Eddie Redmayne, who hasn't transitioned at all and who is playing like a post-operation female at the end of the movie. I don't see how it's different. I don't see why like somebody who has literally lived through that experience and an actor that like you're supposed to be able to like get in touch with your past emotional and physical traumas to like be able to like tap into that. I don't see how that's difficult at all.
I'm just saying
like if you're talking just look wise, right? I mean, we can make people look like aliens. And like we can, you know what I mean? Like they can make people look 20 years older, 20 years younger. Like I'm sure they could figure that out. Just like them making Eddie Redmayne look like a transitioned woman at the end of it, right? It's just going the other way.
They just cover him up and just put some pale, like they have his hair grow out and stuff like that. Like that's not computer generated effects. What you're talking about is taking somebody who's fully transitioned into a woman and saying, "Hey, do you want to tell this story when you were a man?" Transitioning into a woman, sure, let's compress your chest, let's CGI chest hair back onto you, let's cut your hair, let's give you a beard. Like that's just so much more work to tell a story. Do we know that the actors like, that's why I say like it's funny because it's like 5 years ago. Like yes, they could have cast somebody else, but they also could have casted gay men for Brokeback Mountain, but they didn't. They wanted to go again for the easy Hollywood credit or whatever. But I just think it's an interesting topic, and especially for discussion, is that what you're saying is that you can only tell stories that you have your own personal experience in. So you're taking away the acting, is what I'm getting.
No, dude, I think you're playing devil's advocate a little bit. I've never been a police officer, but I wouldn't think it was problematic that I act as a police officer. You're talking about a very specific set of circumstances that people who choose to engage, not choose, that's the wrong framing. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that word. But people who live their lives this way and have this experience, it's very different. With
and for me, it's about
can go,
it's
Brandon.
about representation. It's
Yeah,
about
exactly.
representation, right? Like, it's the same reason why I wouldn't take a role that was meant for an African American person.
Well, you wouldn't be offered a role for an African American person.
But 20 years ago, I might have been. You know what I mean? And I think it's the same thing.
Okay.
It's the same level for sure. I don't think that that's like
No, I think that this is great. This is why we have this. This is why
I love
three
it. I
less
love that
work.
we disagree. I love it.
But you're saying like I can't play a straight character.
Oh, that's not what I'm saying at
Not
all.
at all. Not
No,
at
but
all.
that's
No one said
there's
that.
more straight guys out there. Like if Caleb and I were up for the same role, they would cast. You're saying to rep. I'm just kidding. This is like an awful example because
I
like
don't think Josh
now
and I would
I'm
ever go out for
arguing
the
for
same
like
part.
I'm arguing. Straight men need more representation. No, I get it, guys.
I
I
mean,
get it. Like I get that. But what I'm saying is that I guess we have to like. You have your friends. We have actors who are transgender, and there were like with Pose. I thought Pose was a brilliant vehicle for transgendered actors, and but that's the thing is like those characters were themselves already transitioned actors or like characters. You know what I mean? So there wasn't this
yeah,
discovery. They used their own experiences to portray accurately what this is back in the 80s or whatever in New York and Harlem or whatever they were, the Bronx. You know,
I think
but
what
that
we're
I think
saying,
that
though,
yeah.
I think what we're
Go ahead.
saying, though, because I agree with you, and we're talking about a very specific thing when we're talking about a movie of somebody transitioning, which I understand. But, like, I think what we're talking about is had you taken a transgender actor or actress and put them in this role, then they're an international superstar, right? Possibly getting nominated for
Or
an
it wouldn't have
Academy
been as
Award.
successful as it was. You
Totally
know,
possible as well. But at some point, I think that's the idea, right?
sure.
It's to have that representation where, uh, Eddie Redmayne doing it great. It's beautiful art. I thought he did great work, but it doesn't help anybody in the community.
He did say that he like spent 2 years doing research on it and like
No,
talking
no,
to
I
different
don't mean him
like doing the work
personally.
on the role.
No, no, I
Like
don't mean him
he tried
personally.
his own personal, him with inside the project and stuff, did his work to hopefully attempt to do his best at portraying
Right.
this
No, no,
like
100%. I'm not saying anything
you know
against Eddie Redmayne at all. I just mean, like, in the same way how you're talking about Pose, which Pose was a show that was made because Orange is the New Black, had a bunch of transgender people in it. And it's an evolution. And that would have just been a really big push for it. It's nothing against Eddie
mhm.
Redmayne. It's a very tough decision to make. It's just now, 5 years later, I think it's a little easier. Right? Like, if I
Sure.
got offered that role, I'd be like, this is a bad idea. This should go to somebody who
Then
has more experience with it.
would you cast male to female or female to male
I don't know. I'd have to
to
have a lot
tell
of conversations with a lot of
to tell
people. I don't know.
well to tell this story? Well, I'm talking about in terms of type, in terms of gender assignment, in terms of like who they identify as. You know what I mean? Like if you transition to a female, you identify as a female. You would be an actress. You would be or a female actor. You would go for the women roles. You wouldn't go for a man who's discovering his, that he was assigned a different gender,
Yeah, but
than
Josh,
what he really
but that's
feels.
literally that's something that you went through. If that's the case, and like, who better than to portray that? You
Yeah.
know, I don't understand why you're getting so hung up on this.
I don't know. I guess I appreciated the real time shots of him, like tucking his dick between his legs and seeing what he would look like as a female, like turning his body a certain way and like figuring that out. Like if you've had the surgery, that there is none of that. There is that no, like the
But
emotionality,
there's
like
such
the
a thing as
emotional aspect of it.
prosthetics.
Right. That's why I'm
You
saying
know,
more work. You can, yes, you'd have to do a lot more work post production and things like that to make it look that, but there's also you go into the whole like empathy thing and it's like I don't know. I love that we're agreeing to disagree and like I'm on the same page as you guys. That's like the funny thing is that like I totally get it. I'm just coming at it from I guess a different mindset, obviously. To I don't know. I mean, I should
It's.
stop saying that because when we say I don't know, it's more of a deflection. It's not like you know I'm going to put a period on this thought.
I mean, it's about trying to. I think it's about trying to get to a point where every actor or actress, regardless of gender, race, sexuality, whatever, is on the same page.
Yeah.
and like has the same opportunities. That's the goal at the end of the day, and that's very easy for me to say as like a straight white male. You know what I mean? But I think that's the goal at the end of the day. I mean, me and you have had conversations before where I've come to you and be like, "Hey, is this weird that I'm playing a gay character? Like, is this, you know what I mean?" And you've said to me
Yeah.
multiple times, like, "No, not as long as you're not being a dick about it. Like, as long as you're doing it genuinely." And I'm like, "Thank you. That's actually very helpful." You know what I mean? And like, I've seen you play straight characters all the friggin' time. You know, and
Well, I mean,
that's
yeah.
totally in our pocket in the way it should be. But we're not going to play. You know, we're not going to play characters that were actively written for African American people because it's just taking away for no reason. You know what I mean? Where I don't think it's the same for sexuality. You know what I mean? I don't think that's the same. I don't think it's
I
the
would
same
say
issue.
gender. I think what we're talking about is gender, because sexual orientation and gender
No. I'm talking about.
are separate.
I'm talking about sexual orientation now because, like, you mentioned, like playing straight guys or gay people, and I don't think there's. I don't think. I think that's a totally different thing.
Absolutely, yeah,
That's
definitely.
what I'm saying. I think it's a different thing. It doesn't affect like the way you look outwardly at all. Like it's not. It's your own. That's a personal thing for everybody. Obviously, representation is super important as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think it's a different thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think what we're kind of getting at is that we need more projects. We need more written scripts. Caleb, make more content.
Well, but I don't know. But
it
have you
is.
guys
It
seen
is.
fucking Tangerine? Do you guys know what Tangerine is?
No.
No.
It's a movie that came out a few years ago that is about trans people, starring trans people, and it was filmed on like a fucking iPhone 7, and it like won a bunch of awards at Sundance. You know,
Nice.
That sounds awesome.
so the fact that what like I'm sure that if the Danish Girl didn't have like Oscar winner Eddie Redmayne, which actually he hadn't won the Oscar at the time he was cast, so there's that. But
Yeah, I think Tom approached him during like Les Mis or something, being like, "Hey, listen, I think you'd be good for this role."
less
Because he
missed.
saw him
But
as like
I was
Viola
just saying
in
that
like
it's
Twelfth
very
Night.
big. There is precedent, for like a massive successful movie that's like about and starring trans people. So I think that
I
like the
think it's
tide
gonna
is
happen. I think
changing.
it's absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that we've hit on a lot of like great things because it's something to like really think about in terms of artistry and acting and in this idea like it's so fun to like hit on because art. I like to say real quick about just like us being passionate about something and like a way like this representation thing. It's we're so used to or like we're so driven by this whole like no don't speak out, don't speak up, just kind of go with it and find our way in. And when we get powerful enough, I guess we'll then make a project that'll change the tide. But I think it's really good that we talk about this kind of stuff because we do have very valid points that we've hit, and I think I don't know, it's good to talk about because I don't think it's talked about enough, to be honest.
Yeah.
I agree.
And I think it's not like a blanket statement like you were saying before, right? Where it's like every situation's different. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for
So
sure. I also don't know if
it's
we're necessarily the people to make a definitive claim on it or whatever.
yeah.
I don't want
No,
to
but I
speak
can
for
say
anybody, but
Yeah.
I agree with you.
No. But I think it's about speaking for yourself, right? We are actors. We are in the business. Like we do have to make these choices for ourselves at some points, and I think that's the best way to look at it. Is what are you personally comfortable with? What
Yeah.
do you think is right? And for me, like I don't think it's right at this point to take those roles. Maybe 20 years from now, and everybody's on the same page, and everybody's getting roles, and everybody's doing everything. Who knows? Maybe representation is at its fullest in 20 years, and everything opens up, and everybody can do everything. But that's not the way it is right now, unfortunately.
Maybe. I mean, who knows the future? But yeah, I agree with you ultimately that it's
Yeah.
up to the individual to make responsible and ethical choices.
Right.
Well, and then I guess let's say you get put in that between that rock and that hard place of taking a role that will help you in your career or that it's an honest to God exploration, just a challenge for you, and you think you want to try and do it justice. That you also as an actor you have. I guess I don't know what the hierarchy is, but to like challenge the director and be like, hey, listen, I've done my research, I've talked to these people, I don't, I'm reading this scene and I just don't think like this is okay, like there could be that kind of fight for it too, but
Yeah.
but that's, who knows, I'm hoping.
Here's my take on that. I think that if I'm Scarlett Johansson and the entire internet is telling me not to do something because it's disrespectful, and then I turn around and go and bitch about it on the internet, then I'm an asshole, But if it's a situation like, I don't know, I can't think of an example because I don't think there is one. But if like it was like, hey, like this is what this person, Caleb John Cushing is going to be cast as this part, and like people are quiet about it, or they're like, oh, like if no one's decrying it as a bad thing, then it's different, and maybe I would consider it and talk with the director and see what was going on, But if enough people from the marginalized community are telling me not to do it because it's disrespectful, I'm not going to do it. I don't want to piss people off. I don't want to be disrespectful.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Definitely. But
can we talk about Tom Hooper for a second?
Who's Tom Hooper?
The director. He directed.
What else has he done?
Well, I'll tell you, Brandon.
I actually had the same moment yesterday when I was watching it. I was like, let me see what Tom Hooper's done. I was like, oh.
No. So listen, we gotta go through the journey, the artistic journey.
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
Of Tom Hooper. So he started out as a TV director, right? Did a lot of stuff for television. His first, I would say, his big breakout in 2010 was he directed The King's Speech. Which,
I love that.
That's pretty sick movie.
No, it's a good movie. I think that I have my issues with it, but it's really good. And then he goes on to direct Les Mis, which is
something called Les Miserables.
Well, yeah, Les Miserables, which is less successful, we'll say. He comes on to do The Danish Girl. Okay, we've had our opinions about it, but it seemed to do reasonably well.
Oh no! I see where this is going.
No!
And last year he directs Cats, the movie Cats. Which oh god, I don't know if you guys have seen, but holy shit, it's worth it. It's worth it to see the depths of humanity and how cool. And how miserable and like I don't know, it's a fucking nightmare. And I'm not surprised.
I think I see that on Instagram every day, actually.
It's truly,
people just are freaking out and have been freaking out about that movie, like in an insane way. Like holy
we're gonna
shit!
Have to do an episode now. Thanks, Caleb. I'll put that
I mean,
we should. I'm not going to suggest it, but if one of you guys wants to, I won't stop you. It's truly bizarre from like every.
I genuinely think we should wait to do that one until we have better mics and stuff, because that's going to be an experience.
Totally.
Yeah, that's
you know
fair.
what I mean?
Yeah, totally. I totally agree.
It is interesting though, like the King's Speech, right? Like just real quick, because I know where we've gone over, been like a terrible, like a wonderfully full episode, but coming from another kind of instance of like having an actor play somebody who has a speech impediment and having to accurately portray stuttering. And I remember when that movie came out, I was in college, and I remember liking it because both my twin brother and my dad severely stutter, and so I just grew up with that in my life. And like it's hard to see actors stutter on TV, films, theater especially, because a lot of the times what people think stuttering is and how it comes about is not true. You know what I mean? So like,
yeah.
But you also, it's funny because my brother did a play in college. Speech therapists use theater and scenes as ways to help people not stutter. So it's a very interesting. That's
very common
discussion. But yeah, it's very interesting that he did the King's Speech as well as the Danish Girl. We can kind of have parallel conversations about both. Although
I mean, he only wants to do Oscar movies. He only wants to do prestige movies, like Cats.
Hey, I would love to do Oscar movies. I'm not faulting you for that. That would be great.
No, I mean, there's a difference between doing like a movie that wins Oscars because it's good, and then like a movie that's kind of designed by committee in like with the end goal of like winning like Hollywood awards. And that's what I'm saying. All of Tom Hooper's movies. Shut the fuck up, you asshole.
No. What I'm saying is that remember I told you it's so nice to see a movie that's just made because of the love of filmmaking, not because he wants to sell a lot of tickets and make a lot of money. Like you could tell that.
Oh. I thought you were joking that Parasite was made by committee.
No, I thought it was that it swept the Oscars because it's an artfully done movie that wasn't gunning for the awards. It was just people that just love making films. So
historic.
Cool.
Loved it.
Yeah.
I love you guys. Any last thoughts on the Danish Girl?
No, I don't have anything else to say. I just thought it was poorly done in poor taste. What would you guys rate it?
Well, after Caleb's got in my head, I would, you guys go first.
I'm giving it 3.5 Eddie Redmaynes out of 5.
I was gonna go paintings. Or trees, because he paints those 5 trees.
3.5 fantastical beasts out of 5.
I'm gonna give it 2 out of 5.
I'm probably have to give it a 4 just because. I'm giving it a 4. It's moving. That's my opinion on it. I'm not gonna say anything else.
You heard it here first, folks. Josh is anti-LGBT. No, it's your opinion.
Before I pick my next movie, I have a quick question. Do you guys have Disney Plus?
Do.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Then
I know exactly what it is.
We're watching Miracle, the hockey movie.
Oh no.
We've already. I've seen it already. Not in a long time, but
yeah. Then you can. Yeah.
It's
up to you guys. It's either Miracle or Any Given Sunday. The football movie. One of the two.
I would rather watch Miracle.
I need to feel
we're switching it up.
Versus Russia.
Yeah, and then we're gonna have a whole conversation about Canada versus the USA. It's gonna be a whole thing.
Get ready, motherfucker. Do you know what it came out in 2004, right?
4, yeah.
Oh, it's over 2 hours.
2004.
No,
I'm excited. It's a good movie, man.
I'm excited. Movie. I haven't. Sure, I actually don't. I think this is one of those movies that like I've only seen like on TV. Like I don't think I've like sat down to watch it.
It's easy. That's what I was going for this choice after The Danish Girl and Purple Rain. I was going with something easy that everybody can enjoy.
Perfect.
With 0 women beating, so that's a great plus after Purple Rain.
I'm gonna laugh really hard, like if like maybe you haven't seen this in a while, and there's just like a scene where Kurt Russell just beats the shit.
No, that doesn't happen. I'm pretty sure.
Russell just drinks a whole 40 and beats the shit out of Patricia Clarkson on the ice.
Wow.
What was she in recently? I'm trying to think because she's amazing. But I'm trying.
She was in. Wasn't she in The Act? Or no, that was a different person.
Yeah, that's not what I'm.
No,
she was. You know what I'm thinking of? I'm thinking of her in Parks and Rec as Ron's mom. That's what I'm thinking of. Or no, sure. Ron's. Sorry, not Ron's mom. Ron's first step.
Yeah, Tammy 1. Right?
First ex-wife.
She was Tammy 1.
She's Tammy 1. Yeah, she's Tammy 1. Yeah.
All right, boys. Because we have to wrap up the episode officially, so I'm just gonna. That's everything we had on the Danish Girl. I would like to. So we have the Miracle next time. Thank you, Brandon.
Just Miracle, Josh.
Just Miracle. Drop the.
Drop the. It's cleaner.
So Miracle. Just kidding. We have Miracle next time. So thanks for listening, guys. That is 3 MFAers on the Danish Girl.
Da, 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 da.